So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Starbucks is in trouble again, and we've got to talk about this. This came from back in January 31st of this year, 2024, and an administrative law judge upheld an unfair labor practice charge on the National Labor Relations Board, finding that Starbucks was acting coercive under the National Labor Relations Act when they asked employees if they would work scheduled shifts during a strike and in order to stop staffing shortages at those stores. Section 8A1 makes it unfair labor practice if an employer interferes with, restrains, or coerces employees in the exercise of rights guaranteed under Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act. Section 7 gives employees the right to self-organize, to form, join, or assist labor unions. These unfair labor practices are pretty broad. You can't promise employees benefits if they reject a union. You can't change the nature of their employment. You can't prevent employees from talking about the union during working time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's go into what happened in this situation. Starbucks has a minimum number of employees for each store in the Starbucks safety and security guidelines. They provide for at least 2 partners in the store at all times, and then specific stores like the Westlake drive-thru store in Seattle requires at least 5 staff members if it serves customers at both in the walk-in and the drive-thru. And so these are minimum staffing numbers that it needs to keep up, and this specifically has to do with 3 stores in Seattle: 425 West Pike Street, 505 Fifth Avenue, and the Westlake drive-thru store. Between April 14th and July 14th of 2022, the employees at these stores sent management strike notices saying that there's going to be a strike from this date to this date, and in some cases the names of the striking employees. For example, and this is representative of all of these, the Fifth and Pike store is in the heart of Seattle in the Central Business District. And on January 25th, the union filed a representation petition for the store. During that time, the employees at the store went on strike 7 times. The shift supervisor sent a strike notice to the district manager and the store manager saying that they were going on strike from 4:30 a.m. on Friday to April 15th. Through Sunday, April 17th, the entire weekend, where the employees would ultimately return to work. And they said that there were 17 named employees, as well as some that wanted to be anonymous. Within moments, the district manager called the shift supervisor and said, "Hey, we wanted to talk about operations for the hours. Give me a call when you get this." So that we could talk about it. And this happened multiple times. The district manager or the store manager called these employees and asked whether or not they were going to work any of their scheduled shifts that weekend. And what's clear here, and what's been clear from Starbucks, is that they were just trying to figure out whether or not they can man the store, whether or not they have the appropriate people for the staffing shortages that were coming in. But because the district manager and the store managers did not ultimately articulate that that was the reason and that these employees were not under any threat for not working, ultimately this was considered to be coercive because they did not make the assurances whether or not that to let them know that the strike was acceptable, just that they needed to know exactly how many they needed to run the store. And this seems sort of endemic in all the unfair labor practice charges that Starbucks catches. You have really poorly trained district managers who don't quite fully understand the rules that they need to play by, and as a result, oftentimes make somewhat innocuous mistakes. Now, this is still considered, per the administrative law judge, still considered to be coercive, and as a result, they caught this unfair labor practice charge. But many of these charges quite appear to be innocent and unintentional. The employer can make this question when there is a staffing minimum, but the employer has to fully explain the purpose of its questioning. Number 2, assure the employee that no reprisals will flow from their responses. And 3, does not otherwise create a coercive atmosphere. And the administrative law judge found that because there were no assurances, ultimately this was an unfair labor practice. And often I don't go into what happens after these unfair labor practice charges are administered, right? I don't talk about what it looks like after the fact. And the truth of the matter is the penalties are not substantial. So, for example, the remedy for this one is that they need to post this notice to the employees marked at the Fifth and Pike store and the Westlake Drive store. They can't post it in the 505 Union store because it's closed, but they're supposed to mail it to each individual who worked at that store in those 2 weeks that this happened. In addition, they need to have an explanation of rights and a mandatory 45-minute training for the district managers of those the Fifth and Pike and Westlake stores. And so, and that was because given the limited nature of the violations, they found that the remedies were not warranted. And so, this is important to understand. Well, they've been found by the administrative law judge to be, have done fault, and obviously the Starbucks Workers United is upset by it. The actual penalties for this were quite minimal. So let me know what you think about, should these penalties be increased? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.